Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The steam curled thick around me, clinging to my skin like a second breath. Warm water cascaded down my back as I tilted my head beneath the shower spray, eyes closed, lost in the hush of the moment, until I heard it. The soft sound of footsteps that didn't belong. Slow. Certain. Getting closer. I opened my eyes just as the glass door slid open. He didn't say a word. Didn't even hesitate. Still wearing the shirt I'd watched him pull on that morning, he stepped in fully clothed, the fabric darkening instantly under the water. My heart kicked against my ribs. What is he doing? The heat shifted. Not just from the shower, from him. His chest brushed my back as he moved closer, close enough for me to feel the rise and fall of his breath against my wet skin. My palms pressed against the slick glass instinctively, water droplets racing down to meet them. And then, he was there. All of him. Fully dressed, soaked through, pressing me gently against the cool pane as if the world outside that shower had stopped existing. His fingers swept my hair back, slow and deliberate, exposing the nape of my neck. That single gesture sent a shiver down my spine, one he must have felt, because his lips hovered close to my ear. I could hear his breath before I felt it. Warm. Unsteady. Charged. And then, in a voice rougher than I'd ever heard it, he whispered things that made my knees weaken beneath me, words laced with promises and unspoken memories. Each syllable sank into my skin deeper than the water ever could. I didn't dare move. I didn't dare breathe too loud. The air between us thickened, the world shrinking down to water, breath, and the unspoken pull neither of us wanted to resist. The shirt clung to him, his heartbeat thudded against my back, and every inch of space vanished. But just when I thought I knew what would happen next, he shifted closer, closer, and everything changed. What happens when the line between tenderness and desire disappears completely? The warmth of the water wasn't the only thing making my pulse race anymore. It was him, the way his presence filled every inch of space behind me, the way his breath brushed the back of my neck before he even spoke. He didn't need words, the silence itself had turned into something heavy, magnetic, pulling me closer without either of us moving an inch. I felt his hand hover near my shoulder, close enough that the heat of it tingled against my skin before he touched me. When his fingers finally traced a slow, deliberate path down my arm, I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't bold. It was patient, like he was memorizing every inch, every reaction, every tiny shift in my breath. The soaked fabric of his shirt brushed against my back, clinging to the curves it traced as he leaned closer. The sound of water sliding over us grew louder, or maybe it was just the pounding of my heartbeat in my ears. My eyes fluttered shut as his lips stopped just shy of my ear again, and the whisper that followed was so low, so careful, that I almost thought I'd imagined it. Do you feel this too? It wasn't a question meant for an answer. It was a confession wrapped in breath, one that made the space between us feel even smaller. I turned my head slightly, just enough for our eyes to almost meet in the fogged reflection of the glass. His gaze held mine, steady, searching, full of something we'd both been tiptoeing around for far too long. A droplet traced a slow path down my neck. His finger followed, stopping just before it could slip past my collarbone. My skin tingled beneath his touch. My body leaned before I told it to. Every brush, every glance, every stolen breath made it harder to remember where the line even was. The steam swirled thicker, hiding everything beyond this tiny, breathless world we'd built inside the shower. His hands shifted just slightly closer to mine on the glass. My lips parted without a sound. And in that charged heartbeat, with water rushing, hearts racing, and air crackling with everything unspoken, it felt like the next moment might change everything. The world beyond that shower had vanished, gone with the sound of the water and the haze of steam. All that remained was the space between us, shrinking with every breath we took. His chest pressed just enough against my back for me to feel the steady thrum of his heartbeat, and somehow it matched mine, both racing, both betraying what we were trying so hard not to admit. His hands slid higher, following the trail of water across my skin, stopping just short of where I wanted it most. The hesitation was maddening, deliberate, teasing, like he was daring me to turn around and erase the distance completely. My breath caught, shallow and uneven, as his fingertips traced lazy, feather-light circles that sent shivers chasing down my spine. "Tell me to stop," he breathed, so close that the words tangled with the droplets clinging to my neck. But I didn't. I couldn't. My hands pressed harder against the glass, the cool surface grounding me as the rest of me unraveled. My body leaned back, traitorous and hungry, until his soaked shirt was flush against my skin. The fabric clung, warm and heavy, every movement sending tiny sparks of awareness darting through me. The steam blurred our reflections, but I could still see the ghost of his face near mine, eyes dark, lips parted, breath ragged. He hovered there for a long, trembling heartbeat, as if any closer would be too far, too much, too real. And still, neither of us moved away. My pulse thundered when his hand found mine on the glass, fingers brushing, then curling just enough to hold. That tiny contact sent a ripple through me, a warning and a promise. The air felt charged, electric, like the moment right before a storm breaks. "Do you want me to?" he whispered again. I turned my head slightly, just enough that our breath mingled. Just enough that if either of us leaned a fraction closer, everything would change. But we stayed there, trembling, suspended, caught in that thin, breathless space between resisting and surrendering. And in that dangerous almost, the tension became unbearable, and utterly irresistible. The air in the shower had turned molten, every breath heavier than the last. Steam wrapped around us like a secret we weren't supposed to share, and yet neither of us stepped back. His chest rose and fell against my back, deeper now, rougher, as though he was fighting the same battle I was, the one between restraint and surrender. His hands still covered mine on the glass, fingers tightening slightly, anchoring me in place. The other trailed down the curve of my arm, slow and searching, until it hovered just above my waist. The heat from his palm bled through the thin space between us, and my whole body leaned toward it before I could stop myself. The tiniest brush of contact followed, light, fleeting, and yet it made my breath hitch like I'd been touched everywhere at once. "Do you want this?" he whispered, voice low and unsteady. The words vibrated against my skin, more felt than heard. I didn't answer, maybe because I couldn't. My silence was its own confession, and he understood it perfectly. His body shifted closer, closing the last sliver of distance until his soaked clothes clung to my bare skin. The sensation was overwhelming, soft fabric, hard muscle, wet heat, all tangled together and impossible to separate. The water continued to fall in steady sheets, tracing paths over both of us, making every point of contact slick and electric. His breath grazed the hollow beneath my ear, ragged now, as if just being this close was unraveling him too. I turned my head slightly, and our cheeks brushed, just skin against skin, but it sent a shudder through us both. His lips hovered there, close enough to feel, too far to claim. My heartbeat roared in my ears, matching the rhythm of the water, louder with every second. Then, without warning, his fingers slid up, tracing the edge of my jaw, tilting my head back just enough that our eyes finally met in the fogged glass. The tension snapped tighter. No words. No movement. Just the unbearable closeness and the gravity pulling us towards something we both knew we couldn't take back. It was right there, trembling on the edge, one breath, one heartbeat, one whisper away from everything changing. The air between us was about to snap. One more breath, one more inch, and nothing would ever be the same. His hand still cupped my jaw, his thumb tracing slow, hypnotic circles as the water rushed around us. My pulse thundered beneath his touch, every heartbeat daring him closer. My body wasn't just leaning into him now, it was yearning for him, trembling with the weight of everything we'd left unspoken. And then, something shifted. A sound, faint, muffled, but unmistakable, echoed beyond the bathroom door. A soft thud, followed by another. His hand froze mid-motion. My breath caught. We didn't move, didn't speak, listening as the sound faded into silence. The moment stretched thin, trembling on the edge of breaking. "It's probably nothing," I whispered, though my voice sounded distant even to me. But the spell had changed. His fingers were still against my skin, but now they carried a different kind of charge, not just desire, but a question. A challenge. His gaze locked with mine in the fogged glass, and for a heartbeat, we stood there in that charged silence, daring the world to interrupt us again. And then he leaned closer. Whatever hesitation had flickered a second ago vanished. His lips brushed the corner of my jaw, not quite a kiss, but close enough to send a shiver through every part of me. My hands pressed harder against the glass. I felt his breath falter, then deepen, his body giving in even as his mind fought to hold back. But just as the moment swelled again, the door handle turned. We both froze. It didn't open, not yet, but the sound was enough. Reality rushed back in, crashing through the haze like cold air. The steam no longer felt like a cocoon, it felt like a veil that could be ripped away at any second. My heart hammered as footsteps moved away down the hall. Whoever it was hadn't entered, but they could have. He exhaled shakily against my skin. We should stop. But neither of us moved. His words said one thing, but his body betrayed him, still pressed against mine, still trembling with restraint, still caught in the gravity of the moment. My fingers curled against the glass, the decision clawing at me from both sides. Stop now and the spell breaks. Continue, and nothing will ever go back to how it was. The water roared louder, steam swirling around us in wild spirals. The risk had changed everything, made the air sharper, the closeness more dangerous, the tension unbearably intoxicating. My breath hitched as his lips hovered near my ear again, closer than before, each exhale a confession he still couldn't speak aloud. "Tell me to stop," he whispered again. But I didn't. I couldn't. The danger made it worse, made it better. And in that moment, trapped between the weight of what almost happened and what still could, we stood trembling on the edge of something that terrified and thrilled us both. We were no longer just crossing a line. We were about to erase it. The silence after that whisper was deafening. Water still thundered around us, steam still curled like smoke, but all I could hear was the thud of my heartbeat, wild, reckless, unstoppable. His words hung in the air, daring me to break the spell. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. Instead, I turned, slow, deliberate, until I was facing him. His eyes caught mine instantly, dark and searching, and in that heartbeat, the tension that had been coiling tighter and tighter between us finally snapped. The space that had once held restraint disappeared. His soaked shirt brushed against my bare skin as our bodies collided, not with urgency, but with inevitability. All the stolen glances, the hesitant touches, the whispered almost confessions, they all ignited in that instant. His hands found my waist, fingers digging in just enough to hold me there, while my palms slid up over the drenched fabric clinging to his chest. We moved without thinking, guided only by the pull that had been simmering for so long. Breath tangled with breath. Every brush of skin sent shivers racing deeper. It wasn't just closeness anymore, it was surrender. The kind that burned through hesitation and left only raw, trembling need. The glass behind me fogged over completely as he pressed me back against it, his forehead falling to mine. For a moment, we didn't speak. We didn't have to. The storm between us spoke louder than words. And just when I thought the world outside no longer existed, a sharp knock shattered the moment. We froze. "Hey, are you two in there?" a voice called from beyond the door, familiar, confused, far too close. My stomach dropped. That voice wasn't supposed to be here. Not now. Not ever. His eyes flew to mine, wide, searching, 1,000 unspoken questions rushing through them. My breath caught somewhere between a gasp and a laugh, not from humor, but from sheer disbelief. Reality had finally crashed through the door we'd been holding shut. But here's the truth, neither of us stepped back. Not immediately. Even with the world pounding on the other side, our fingers stayed tangled, our breaths still hitched in the same rhythm. The line we'd been tiptoeing around? It wasn't just crossed. It was gone. And whatever waited beyond that door, consequences, questions, truths, would have to face us now, not the people we were before this moment. The world outside that door was still knocking, softly now, uncertain, but it didn't matter. Inside the shower, time felt suspended, as if every second stretched longer just to hold on to the electricity still crackling between us. Water traced warm rivers down our skin and clothes alike, but nothing burned hotter than the space we shared. His forehead rested against mine, eyes searching, lips hovering just close enough to feel but not quite touch. "We can't stay here forever," he whispered, voice raw from everything we'd almost done, and everything we had. "Maybe not," I breathed back, "but I'm not ready to step back yet." The corner of his mouth curved, a half-smile that felt like a secret only we knew. His hand slid down my arm and found my fingers, threading them together in a way that felt more intimate than anything else. We stood there like that, soaked, breathless, tangled in something we couldn't name, while the world waited on the other side of the door. It wasn't about the heat anymore, though that still pulsed between us like a heartbeat. It was about what had shifted. The line we'd walked for so long had blurred beyond recognition, and in its place was something new, raw, fragile, thrilling. Something we both wanted to explore, no matter how complicated it might be once we stepped out of the steam. The knocking came again, then faded. Silence wrapped around us once more. His thumb brushed the back of my hand, a small, grounding gesture that said, "I'm here. I'm not running." And as the water finally began to cool, we didn't speak. We didn't need to. The air between us still hummed with promises neither of us had dared to make out loud. What happened next, the explanations, the questions, the choices, could wait. For now, there was only this, the charged quiet, the closeness that refused to fade, the fire that still smoldered beneath the surface. Because some moments don't end when you step out of them. They linger, in skin, in memory, in breath. And this one? This one was going to burn in both of us long after the steam cleared.